citizens and each commission and their family, Lord, lead us in the direction of where we should go. We ask this in your son Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You know, we're here today to discuss workshop our animal ordinance, and also we are very thankful of County Commissioner Bill Pickens. He's joined us today, along with County Administrative Terry Suggs, Julianne. Thank you very much for being here, and also all of you for taking time out of your day to be here with us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and you want to start this off.
I can, Mayor, kind of going way back when we were working on an interlocal agreement, the issue of animal control came up as part of the agreement, and adopting the county's animal control ordinance. You know, what's in your packet was kind of a first effort at merging the two together. I think what we found is there are some significant differences, such as farm animals and kennel facilities and so forth, might make that difficult. So that kind of was under consideration. But then more recently, issues came up concerning dogs loose in the community and rounding those dogs up in facilities and so forth. So there were numerous calls to have a workshop to discuss those issues and for the commission to be able to talk about that. So that's what today is about. It may just be a first step to ultimately finalize what we're going to do with our ordinance, particularly in relation to the interlocal agreement, but also just in general for commissioner questions and comments on animal control.
Okay. I know we need to start off. We've got a lot of some people here from the public that probably want to speak. We also have Jenny, and we appreciate you. You're here from representing Crescent City Kennel and hard work Jenny does. Linda Young is also here. Linda Young, you serve on the Animal Advisory Board, correct? And a family member of SPAM, okay, along with, I know Diane, you are also. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead at this time, and I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Jenny can only be here until 3, she has to leave at 3. But I'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. Please, come up, if you would, state your name and your address, and Karen, you've got the clock. 3 minutes. So if anybody would like to come up and speak at this time, we probably have an opportunity as we go through this, maybe at the end of the meeting, if we still have time, with some of the things. But I think first off, we want to hear what your concerns are and what has brought you here today. No takers? Anybody has anything to say? No, it's public comment time. So if anybody wants to come up and have any comments or any concerns that they have currently. Okay. With that, oh, okay. Come on out.
I guess I'll take the plunge.
That's okay. If you'll come to the podium, please. Yes, ma'am. And state your name and if you would, your address.
Sure. Is the PO box sufficient?
That's fine. You can say whatever you want to. If you pull the mic down to you so you fit, so we can.
Thank you. Mary Battle, PO Box 476, Crescent City, Florida 32112. I've been told that animal control, the county animal control, does not have a website to show members of the public the wonderful animals that are there waiting for a responsible home. Is that true?
Okay, wait a second. I'm not gonna, we'll allow the county to respond after your comments. If you'll just share your comments with us, and then we'll ask them to address those after the fact.
Okay, because if
that's
I
fine.
do have a website now that advertises actively the animals that need a home, that would be wonderful. Because with it way in the north end of the county, okay, people tend to go to Volusia or Flagler looking for animals when we have many needy ones right here. And the ones that do get picked up in the streets of Crescent City and Putnam County, really would have more of a chance of being placed also if the adoption rate, could increase through the advertising that these animals are waiting, and like other shelters also, the important facts about the animals and the types of homes that they need. So, thank you very much.
Okay, absolutely. I'll just ask, probably would it be Julianne, would you be the one when we're done with public comment to address that? Thank you.
Diane Sykes, 304 Chestnut Street. My concern is we have these ordinances, but who's going to enforce them? That is my question.
Do you have any other speakers at this time?
Donna Middleton, 1 South Main, Crescent City. I don't know if this goes with the program or not, but there's several illegal puppy mills right outside of town. And, I don't know, it would be, and you see pit bulls for sale constantly. And we know we've got pit bulls running loose, killing cats. I would suggest, now, I don't know if it's legal or what, but to have a permit. If you want to breed your animal, you have to come here and apply for a permit. And if you're caught without a permit, it's gonna be an extenuating fine, like $3,500, because they sell these bulldogs for $500-600 a piece. You get 6 delivered, you go back. So if you make it to where it doesn't come out in their favor, they're gonna stop breeding. That's just an idea.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, and at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and close public comments. And I guess what we've all been going on for some time now in Crescent City, as well as probably the whole county, probably the whole state, probably the whole country, has issues right now with animals and running loose and have got to figure out what we can do to try to help that problem. I'm thankful that the county came here today. They're very open-minded to discuss this with us and see if we can come up with a solution. It's my feeling that we don't just point our fingers and say it's your problem to take care of. I would like us to all try to come together as a community, try to figure out also how we can assist in that effort. So with that, I guess, can we hear Julianne? Can you address, or Commissioner Pickens, would you like to go ahead and?
Yeah, thank you, excuse me, Mayor Myers, and the rest of the council, administrator, and young legal counsel Pickens for having us here today. And, I know that y'all, animal control is a big concern for the whole county. And the county does provide some animal control. At what level is it satisfy y'all? It may not. So you may think about wanting to participate in helping us improve, okay? Not just by suggestions, but maybe financially, okay? So I know at your last county commission or city commission meeting, at the end, y'all discussed animal control. And a lot of you had some concerns. So Administrator Suggs, Deputy County Administrator Suggs is here. Deputy County Administrator Julianne, who is now over animal control. And I think that's a positive. We've taken it out of the hands of the building department director, and we put it in Julianne's hands. There's already been some improvements. Julianne is visiting the facility, a few times a month and interacting with some of the staff. So I think we have a better pulse on it already. I've asked her at the end of this to discuss a little bit about the new animal control shelter. We are going to build one. It will take care of some of the problems. It will not take care of the overcrowding, because I truly believe if we have 200 spaces, it will fill up in the first 90 days. What it will do, it will get it out of the area it is now, which is near the landfill in Palatka. It will move it over off of Highway 19 by the sheriff's office, okay? It'll be a nice new facility, make it more conducive for people who want to visit want to donate, want to volunteer, and want to adopt. So that would be a positive there. It's not going to take care of what happened in the west end of the county, which was horrific, okay? A lot of that would be cooperation with animal control and the residents, and also there's this thing called personal responsibility. Personal responsibility is not what it used to be in this country or in this county. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just stating fact that a lot of things as a commissioner that I deal with on a day-to-day basis is people not having personal responsibility for taking care of their animals, taking care of their homes, taking care of the roads that the county have. We're getting so many complaints about four-wheelers and trucks spinning up dirt roads. I've never seen this much in 6 years. So I want to thank the city council for getting this meeting together, and we're really looking for suggestions. I met with Commissioner DeVito a few months ago, and we had an hour-long discussion, and we're looking for suggestions. How the suggestions and policy changes will move forward, and Julianne can correct me if I'm incorrect. We have an animal control advisory board, which Linda Young does sit on, and I asked her to be here today. And the recommendations need to go to them, and then they need to come up with some recommendations for us and recommend them to the Board of County Commissioners. And then we'll work with them and staff to decide what needs to be changed and how they are implemented and how they are funded. Most time when you make a change, there's going to have to be a funding mechanism to fund this, okay? So we're all in this together. I know that's a terrible cliche, but we really are. The last mayor meeting that we had, I meet with the mayors of Pomona Park, Crescent City, and Malacca once a quarter. And we discussed animal control at each one in the last few months. So we know it's something that's needed to be addressed, and I appreciate y'all having this meeting and looking for some good ideas. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Julianne.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor, council members, again, I will reiterate, we appreciate today's meeting and the first of probably many before we find a holistic approach. We are here as your partners. This is a countywide service. We are rendering countywide services. We do find ourselves in a social economic state where we are seeing an increasing number of abandoned animals, both adoptable and non-adoptable. Where we go and what the direction we take holistically is something that we are seeking input and happy to be your partners with. When you talk about specific caveats that you may want to impose within the city limits, that would be something that you as a municipality have every right to do and enforce, and we will support it from a partnership standpoint. However, that will be on you all to enforce that type of municipal boundary as far as if you have some specific criteria that you want to apply to the city limits of Crescent City. So with that, I'm happy to, there was a host of topics that were talked about, and if you'll tell me specifically where we want to go in this meeting, then I'm happy to be here and listen and support and give some feedback.
I'm going to open it up. I know we have some commissioners that have probably some questions. So I'll open it up. Commissioner, do you have any questions? Commissioner DeVito?
Hi. Hi, Ms. Young. So thank you so much for being here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
Okay, my mic is usually iffy. My first question really is about the interlocal agreement, and I have a suggestion. We were told months ago that with respect to the interlocal agreement, the county wanted us to, quote, merge our ordinance with the county ordinance. I've looked at these ordinances. It doesn't really make sense in many respects. As our city manager mentioned, the county ordinance deals with livestock. We are a municipality where houses are very close together. It's in a very close environment. There are different standards and circumstances. There are differences in enforcement between the two ordinances. So my question that I made to the city manager And I was hoping we could get an answer from the county. When we were given the request to merge the ordinances, was there something specific that someone had in mind?
No, Commissioner, they weren't asked, they didn't ask us to merge, that was our idea, they asked us to adopt their ordinance.
To adopt it.
Okay, what is the purpose of that?
Well, so thank you, City Manager, for clarification. The request was not a merger because we don't want to combine both.
But to adopt yours?
That's correct.
Okay.
So for instance, the same theory that your sheriff's office premise arrives under when they get here, what's legal here has to be legal there if you're gonna have the same agency responding. And that's essentially, although maybe not correct terms, because animal control and legal may not be in the same ballgame, but if you will take the concept as a whole, our animal control office is authorized by the board to carry out the board's ordinance, and those stipulations are outlined. If you start changing the stipulations, then that is no longer something my animal control officers are authorized, nor should they be authorized to carry out what you as a municipality are setting as rules for your area. That you're completely welcome to set out different sets of rules, and we support you doing that. But then it would be up to you to enforce and patrol your rules, again.
Okay, well, I have a question for you about that. Number one, some of those rules just are not, those rules are not appropriate for an area like this. I've lived both in country and city, and I see the difference. And just to let you know, people come here from outside the city limits to walk because it is so dangerous outside the city limits.
And you very well may need municipal rules that are different than ours, just like zoning,
So,
right?
but my question is, so I've lived in other counties, it's my impression that in other counties, the county animal control enforces whatever ordinances exist in whatever jurisdiction of the county.
Mr. Vito, we'd have to research any specific example you may have of that, but I can tell you that we don't set that up in any realm to be the scenario for which we have a different set of rules if we cross a line.
Okay.
You're saying for Putnam County, correct?
Yes, it is.
Well, no, but with the sheriff, for example, we contract for their services and they have, right, but to a certain extent, they enforce our ordinances. Our ordinances are not eliminated because we are contracting with the sheriff. For example, the parking ordinances, those are different in the city, and they enforce the city rules on parking and streets and that kind of thing. So just because we contract with the sheriff, it's a little bit different situation. All the county rules do not apply in the city, including the noise ordinance. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that.
I want to make a comment to that for just a moment, and that was my understanding from the sheriff's department when we were going through this originally, was that the sheriff's office works with animal control, okay? Here, on all of our other ordinances, they work directly with us, but see, they work with animal control with their ordinances, so they would have to work with their ordinances and our ordinances, and to make it a more streamlined, working environment for everybody, that's why it was suggested that we adopt the county's ordinances.
I think the key word here is that we contract with Putnam County Sheriff. We actually pay for their services here within the city. And right now, what we're trying to ask the county to do, the animal control county, is, which the whole county pays for.
Yes.
You know, we don't pay for anything specific from them, we just are trying to kind of piggyback on what you offer and say, you gotta do it our way here in the city. Is that,
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
that's what I'm hearing it.
Yes.
Is there some way in which maybe we can contract a additional type program for the city at, I'm gonna say for a reasonable price, all right, that might be able to help within a city type environment rather than, because right now you're doing, you're it's the entire county. It really doesn't fit the city. The animals, I agree with Commissioner DeVito, you know, the horses and the cows and all the other stuff, they're not here in the city. So, at least I hope not, we probably have a few of them, I know. I don't know, he's laughing at me. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, for the most part, we are a city and we behave like a city, with city-type animals. And so therefore, that's what we would kind of need. And, so that's what I'm gonna throw at you. I mean, is there a different way for you to provide that for us?
So the county would be open to entertaining any proposal given by the city of Crescent City. I can't speak for the holistic of the board and to what their vote would be, but we're certainly open to entertaining that. You all as a commission would need to establish your expectations before we could entertain for you or give you any reasonable proposal on what that reasonable cost would be. What are your expectations of service from us if we enter into some sort of supplemental or contracted services?
Now, as far as the county is concerned, can the county come up with some type of educational type system to help people become a little more educated on neutering, spaying, all those things that would certainly help everybody within the county?
Commissioner, I hesitate, my MO is that we can always do more, however, many of the folks that you see in this room, their passion is educating the public and helping the public spay and neuter. We have 2 pages of rescue organizations that we hand out to anyone that calls us and says, I need help.
But we don't have any rescue organizations within Putnam County.
Yes, we do.
Okay, rescue, do we have any organizations that actually neuter and stay, or are those that are part of Putnam County, that Putnam County supports within our tax dollars?
No, it's not a county function.
No, it's a rescue function.
We do have a spay neuter program that is administered by the county, but we do not have the medical license, nor do we want the medical license to be operating on it.
Okay. Commissioner DeVito,
Sure.
then I'll let you finish.
I think Commissioner Burton's points are very well taken. I like the road that she's going down to a certain extent. There's a little money issue there. But I did have some specific suggestions.
Sure.
Because I've thought about this for a long time. When my husband and I first became full-time residents here in 2017, after the part-time residents of the baby, one of the first things that happened to me was I was attacked by a dog down by my lakefront in town. And no one wanted to respond. I was being threatened by a dog that could have killed me. And I called the sheriff's office, and they could hear the dog barking in the background. And they told me to call animal control. I couldn't even get in my back door. So that was not pleasant. And it breaks my heart to see the animals running around. And I try to do what I can. So after 5 years of trying to report things to animal control, and seeing what happens, I have some specific suggestions. One is coordination of efforts. And by that, Ms. Battle brought up the website issue. It seems to me that there's a very cumbersome system. There's not a streamlined system for reporting problem for stray animals. There's not like a web portal that you can go to and upload a photo or upload the information. You have to know the number of animal control, you have to call, you have to leave a message. They may or may not call you back. They try very hard, I'm sure, to get their messages, but they're only there a certain time of day. Then you have to get the number of someone to text them the picture. In terms of public education and access, it seems to me, just through going through this process, that if the county could provide those tools to animal control to make their information clearly accessible, clearly lay out to the public how to report a problem animal and make it very easy to do, that would help to some extent. Personally, if you do the math, I'm not a mathematician, but I don't think we can adopt our way out of this process. I think it is mathematically impossible. And I don't think any other county wants our excess animals. Crescent City discussed several years ago when Ms. Barbara Fisher, who was a South Putnam Animal Network member, was here. She has since moved. We discussed having a spay-neuter ordinance for Crescent City. When you talk about personal responsibility, our local nonprofits do a great job of education, but they can't do the whole thing. And I think we've come to the point where the county needs to assist in public education. And by public education, I mean telling people that if their animals are going to be, one of my neighbors back there in the back said at large, if your animal's gonna be at large, it needs to be spayed and neutered. Because do the math. I wish we could adopt our way out of this problem, but we can't. So I'm sure you're there visiting with animal control. I'm sure you're seeing things that could be done, but those are two things off the top that don't cost a lot of money that I think would greatly help. Thank you.
I want to say,
Thank you, ma'am.
Julianne, I want to apologize to you. I didn't introduce you as the deputy county administrator, and I should, and I apologize. But I also want to say that as we go into these discussions, that I feel that we need to provide some grace to Julianne. She is just really kind of taking this on and looking at it, and I know you've got a big job ahead of you. So please know in no way are we attacking you or, but, you know, so I don't know that everybody knows that, but you have really just kind of taken this on. You have just really kind of taken this on, and so we just are so appreciative that you're here at the table, all of you are here at the table going to talk to us about this. And I asked Jenny to come because I've worked and spoken with Jenny, and Jenny does do a tremendous amount here with those animals that, and so I said, Jenny, what can we do? How can we assist? And, you know, Jenny has facilities. She has the closest facilities here for Crescent City, for Pomona, and for Palatka for that matter. And Jenny has said that she would be willing to assist if we have a situation where we've got a dog on a weekend or we've got a dog that somebody needs to drop off, that she would assist, I think. And Jenny, I'm not going to speak for you. I'm going to allow you to get up and speak and tell us a little bit about what you do and what you can offer to give us some relief from this. Because, you know, I mean, I know we've got situations where we have these animals and they might not even belong to anybody. And catching them, I followed one for 2 hours and Cheryl came out for animal control. I got pictures of it doing all kinds of things in the park. Cheryl came out and she couldn't catch it. Captain Usry couldn't catch the dog. The dog was not aggressive. I don't think he even had any teeth anymore. But still, he was a pit bull running around, and he, for a lot of people, would be scary. And so, but there are cases. So I would ask Jenny if maybe, Jenny, you could come up and just kind of share a little bit about your experience.
Hello, my real name is Virginia Delgado Oakwood. I own Crescent City Kennel, and I'm the president of Ark Animal Rescue, which is housed at Crescent City Kennel. And I'm glad for the invitation. I am passionate about animal welfare in this community and as well as in this county. We do not have a spay and neuter in this county compared to other surrounding counties. That's number one. Number two, we've talked about this responsibility. But number three is also many individuals love their animals, but do not have the financial resources to take the animals to a vet. Our Animal Rescue last year provided 155 spay and neuter vouchers throughout Putnam County. Every single animal that we adopt out is also spayed and neutered, microchipped, et cetera, et cetera. I'm happy to say that January of this year, we started a low-cost vaccine clinic, and you can get a rabies for $5. Going back to animal welfare in every part of Putnam County, animal control, I've been on that committee for many years. I had to step down because I live now in Volusia County. But they are doing the best that they can with the resources that they have. It's up to us to support them in any way we can. There's only one officer from Dunn's Creek to here to South Putnam, or South Crescent City, excuse me, that works Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays only. That is not acceptable. There's a very shortage. We're over 800 square miles in this county, dirt roads, et cetera, animal control can only do so much. Going back to the aggressive strays, I have spoken to the mayor, and I have agreed to house any of those situations. Technically, they have dropped off many animals at my facilities, and I could be here till 2 o'clock in the morning telling you the horror stories that I've seen. But I am here to help this part of the community. I do have an isolation run that is completely fenced in, as well as has roof and shade. Technically, any stray that comes into my facility, or, believe it or not, there are a lot of workers that find animals in the middle of the woods tied up to a tree, and they bring them to us. So that is our process. We put them in this isolation pen. I notify animal control in 5 days that if nobody comes to pick up that animal or claim that animal, it becomes our animal rescue. I cannot take an aggressive dog that is going to bite me or my staff. I will be glad to house it, but we would need an arrangement with animal control for them to pick up the dog. So the community, individuals as well as other animals are maintained safe. I have staff there every day of the week, regardless if it's a holiday, weekend, etc. And I am always available by my telephone. That is the only solution that I can assist you with at this time. I'll be glad to do this. I am not looking for money. I'm looking for safety, animal welfare in our community, and like Lisa, Commissioner DeVito, excuse me. Education is important. One of my goals for 2023 is to start educating at the high schools and middle schools, as well as providing and advertising that we do have spay and neuter vouchers. There is no excuse in the matter. I have right now 10 puppies and over 20 dogs that are looking for homes. I have 10 kittens out in the community, and I get calls every single day. So one of the biggest problems in this county is that we do not have low-cost spay and neuter. And I'm happy to report that I found an additional vet, and we're going to start doing that at Crescent City Kennel. Baby steps, cats first, once a month, and then progress from that. It just takes a lot of money, effort, and of course, labor intensive. But I am here to help you in any way I can, but at the same time, Ms. Young has a lot on her plate, not only the new shelter, but everything else that's happening in this community. And we, as citizens of Putnam County, need to assist that department and the staff. Thank you.
Jenny, let me ask you a question. What's your capacity there? I know the biggest concern you shared with me is that people do start dropping them off, and that's not what we're asking people to do, is to drop them off. This is in a dire situation. But what was your capacity? Because you said that was your concern, is that you don't want to end up with too many dogs.
Remember, I also have a business
Yes.
that does boarding.
Yes.
So I have to have room for the paying customers.
Yeah.
I have a large capacity, I don't want to give a number because it all depends the size of the dog. Is it a puppy, et cetera, et cetera. But I do have the capacity. During a hurricane situation, I've had over 60 dogs at my kennel in the building, including birds, cats, and dogs.
Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
Let me ask everybody this. I think what we need to do, we know some of the problem, finance. I think we need to try to come up with and brainstorm a working idea, something that we can do, and then try to find the money. That seems to be the problem. We can working solution, brainstorming, and come up with a way so that we say, quite naturally, the city don't have the animals to control. I keep on handing the police department. Look, I've been up here almost 40 years. We've been having dog problems in Crescent City ever since I've been up here. But what we need to do is brainstorm. We're doing the right thing now, but come up with a working solution. And then help the county by trying to finance it. It's gonna take money, I don't care where. No way you look at it, it's gonna take money.
You're absolutely right. I am very blessed that I have a volunteer grant writer, as well as we have a lot of support from the community for finances. It's about $250 per animal just to get it spayed, neuter, and all the vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. So I understand that. But I think the main focus here this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, is safety of our residents as well as other animals in this community. And of course, like Ms. Young said, and Commissioner Pickens, is responsibility. And the big question is, yes, we have animal control, but there's a limit of how much they can be enforced because they don't have the manpower. Sorry. And I really think, and this is another goal, is that we need coordination with the sheriff's department. What is their capacity to help us in the sense of, if I have a dog in the front of my lawn, of course, that's attacking me or my staff, of course I'm going to call 911 first and then animal control second. But there are solutions, and I agree with you, Commissioner Banks, that it is money, but sometimes it's not outside of money as well. And coordinating and having resources and brainstorming is a great start.
Okay, let me finish.
Yes, sir.
Can I finish?
Yes.
I think now when we capture one of the wild animals, dogs, we take him and put him, the truck be parked back there, right?
Well, he only parks it there because he parks it there because he lives in the land and he can't drive it out of county, so he parks his truck there. So
Okay.
Donald comes through really about 7 o'clock in the morning, and then he comes through and he's here on the weekends back and forth. So that's his truck, yes, sir.
Okay, well, what do we do with him now at the present time?
Luann, do you wanna?
When customer number one called in, from Interlochen, Crescent City, or from wherever, and said, we got a vicious animal, and we need the sheriff office, because I keep on having the sheriff office coming up, to pick him up. What do we do?
Yes, sir.
What are the steps that we do now?
Yes, Ms. Wade. And Ms. Oakwood is a fabulous partner of ours, but let me clarify just a couple of things that we're talking about in relation to your question. You're thinking zone officers as if we follow the same setup as Putnam County Sheriff's Office. We do not. Our officers cover the whole county as needed, as dispatched. And so you do have the availability of an officer if needed, 24/7. Currently today, Ms. Oakwood is talking about Ms. Cheryl, and she is only a part-time officer, but we do have other officers and we are staffed in order to support the needs. If an animal bite occurs, i.e., you are on your porch and you get bit by an animal, you dial 911, and the sheriff's office has access to every one of our phone numbers that dispatches us as well as them, because there's a dual service there. There's a criminal piece of that if needed, and then there's an animal control piece of that if needed. Since December, we have made numerous changes to the way we communicate with the sheriff's office to bridge any communication gaps. I met with Joe Wells again 2 weeks ago, him and I on animal control, and we're gonna meet again. And so we're continuing to tweak the way that we are communicating with the sheriff's office where we need assistance. The sheriff's office handles livestock, not necessarily a huge issue for you guys. But there is constant, as of today, there is constant communication between the sheriff's office, animal control, and myself. We get every one of their 911 calls, whether it's a stray dog that doesn't belong to me walk down the road, or it's, we had, just this week, we've had 10 puppies dumped inside the city limits of Crescent City, for which we have responded and picked up. They just sleep on the side of the road or anything else. We've had numerous fights inside of the city of Crescent City that we've responded to. All of them in the past little bit have been owner bites, i.e. they knew the dog, they brought the dog, it's my boyfriend's dog, my girlfriend's dog, my mom's dog, whomever. So it has not been a situation where it's a stray dog, nor has it been a situation where the dog was where the dog was supposed to be. However, the dog made a bite and we respond to that. So we do get communication, and we have improved that communication with the sheriff's office, and they are our partner, and we continue to work on that. So today, if you were to go home and you got bit and you called the sheriff's office, you're never gonna need to call me. The sheriff's office is going to notify me, and we're gonna engage as we need to engage. Now, if it's your animal, we have a different set of protocol that we follow versus if it's a stray animal that we need to go find. The same scenario is true if you get bit by a dog and you end up at the hospital. We have an avenue now that dispatches, you never have to call me to tell me. The hospital is to notify DOH, and DOH is responsible for notifying animal control, and we will engage services as needed. So all of those things are currently in place, and we are continuing to tweak the way we communicate with each of those agencies. Animal control crosses a lot of different areas. Neglect cases, anything that would constitute animal cruelty, something of a criminal nature, we don't have the authority to necessarily do what the sheriff's office does. And so it requires constant partnership between those two agencies, and we have that ongoing.
Now, see, now we going somewhere.
Yes, sir.
Because
That's good news.
I didn't know that.
Yes, sir.
And the biggest people in the audience didn't know that.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That
sir.
we are developing a working solution.
Yes, sir. We are every day.
All we got to do is notice at budget time,
Sure. Sure.
so we can try to finance some of this.
Sure.
And it'll get better. It's not gonna be a genie overnight.
No, sir.
It's gonna take time to work it out. And it still will be some tweaks.
Constant improvement. All of us are continuously improving for sure.
Yes, yes. I believe we can come up with a working solution, but it's gonna take money
Yes, sir.
from all of the municipalities that are involved, and I think the whole county.
And I do know that it was a weekend, and, we had a pack of dogs. It seemed like they were coming out on Thursday nights, Friday nights. They were coming out in the evening. They loved the First Baptist Church. They
Yes.
loved the Presbyterian Church. They were, I don't know why, but, anyway, they came out. But I do know that even Donald on a Saturday. Now, there's also restrictions. Everybody says, well, we can put a pin out, but you can't just put a pin out. Somebody has to, and that's why Jenny could be a possible temporary solution for us, because you can't just put a pin out. Somebody's got to make sure that animal's being watched, that animal's being fed, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have the means to do that. But Donald did come out on Saturday, and Administrator Suggs was here also as well.
Yes.
And it was a Saturday, and spent quite a bit of his day trying to catch. And he did catch one of the dogs and came out on Sunday and picked that dog up. So I mean,
Yes, they work 24/7.
That's other duties as assigned.
yeah, other duties as assigned, yeah. So, I mean, I know that they, and they were in communication with the sheriff's department at that time too. So there's a lot of things that go on that not everybody sees, but it is there. So I think that, let me ask you this, and I don't know if you know the answer, but my understanding is, rabies. So all dogs, all animals, domestic animals must have a rabies shot, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's state law.
Yeah, so who takes care of enforcing, who enforces that? Does anybody who keeps record of that other than that? Like I just went and had, but it was in Volusia County, with our vet there, and like, okay, well, who's he notifying? Because we're in Putnam County, I guess he notifies the state. Who does he
Yes.
notify the state?
He does.
Okay, but here locally in the county, we don't really necessarily enforce that. Is there an
It's not an enforcement
mechanism?
question. We don't have it. So the only way you would enforce a scenario in that realm is if you're licensed to have an animal, you have some sort of animal registry, because then I check against the registry to say you've got a rabies shot. So no. Now, if there's ever an instance where animal services are dispatched, Mr. Banks got bit, we require proof of that rabies shot for our validation to make sure that he's gonna be safe and healthy at the end of it. So there is a check and balance if there's an issue with the animal, but there is no mechanism, no trigger that would say, oh, Ms. Myers, you forgot to go get your dog a rabies shot.
Yes, I'm aware of Dr. Bailey in Volusia, kind of a distant relative of mine. The scenario that you're talking about, he has to keep all the records for the state. Each individual dose has got a number, he keeps it. If for something happens, they call up and said, did Snuffy get his vaccination? He says, yes, it was done so and so and so and so. But there is no accord to go out and say, hey, have you had your rabies?
And that animal owner will get a rabies tag, that's what it was deemed for, and there is a unique identifying number on that rabies tag that belongs to Fido or whomever.
That was just a question I was wondering here in the county if we have any type of, so we don't have a registry here. Okay.
People who talk about dog bites, what if, someone just sees a dog running around? Do they call the sheriff's office as well for that? Would be dispatched?
They do, again, just like the sheriff's office, we all have to make, judgment calls on, is this scenario something that I need to stop investigating this dog bite to go find Fido who's walking down Main Street and nobody knows if he belongs on Main Street, and that's a really dumbed down example of what you have, but yes, I get those dispatch reports as well.
So they shouldn't call you directly?
They can call me directly, of course, they can call animal control. And again, we've made a recent change. We used to pull the receptionist or the administrative person responsible for phones and imports of reports. We used to pull them into the kennels. They no longer pull into the kennels. They are literally glued to the chair outside of the governmental bathroom breaks that I guess we're owed. And they answer phones all day long. That's what they do. So yes, sir, you're welcome to call. We check our voicemails numerous times a day. There's numerous avenues that you can call us if there's a stray animal. But the level of service or the response time, much like the sheriff's office response time, depends on the severity of the call and the danger that it poses or does not pose to the community at the time.
Well, I can tell you that, Mayor, I don't think you have to worry about her being into the deal. That's what we call Missouri a fireball right there. She is absolutely on the ball, and I don't think you have to worry about a break-in period whatsoever. I have three things that I'd like to discuss. We've done a barbecue fundraiser for the thing before. I'd like to do another one or two for something like that. I was involved in Missouri in a citizens response team, where the citizens actually had a team. Everybody was kind of like a volunteer fire department type thing. I lived in rural Missouri. We did have issues with raccoons that were rabid and so on and so forth and spreading. One of the big criteria for that was we didn't mind going out and collecting animals, strays, whatever, and then putting them in the truck or what have you. We had a designated place that was bringing it there. But the so-called deputies, if you will, that was done that, first of all, we had training to be able to capture the animals, and everybody had to be certified. And that was very important, I thought. Second of all, they had what they call mad dog clause. Was if there was an animal showing teeth, cornered somebody, they put the animal down right there. That may not be an issue for the community here, but I can see as if something was trapping her on the front porch or something, pit bull, nobody's gonna try to do that. They put the animal down right there. They didn't do it a lot, but that was a clause when I joined that I stipulated, I'm not gonna reach over there and get bit and then have to have the radio shot and stuff myself. If need be, at extreme circumstance, I'm gonna put the animal down. On that aspect, they never had to in 5 years that I was there, but it was a clause that if something was to happen, the sheriff wasn't there, someone's cornered, a little girl or something, they're not gonna let happen what happened to the male lady. They're gonna shoot the animal. So that was kind of a clause that we did that, and it worked. They captured the animals if they were running straight, whoever was on duty, or 3 or 4 of them would go out, bam, get the animals. Everybody was worried about public safety as well, but the citizens actually did something about it. And so there was a response team in town where I lived in a nice little place called California, Missouri. It was 42 miles away from the county seat, where the sheriff's office was. We have far more sheriff deputies here than in Missouri. We have a lot more law enforcement placement here, and the citizens took a far more responsible effort. Guys, cows got out and went into the middle of town, called the response team, put them all back in. It really didn't matter which animals it was, but the stray dogs were a problem. And I think maybe the stray dog aspect with the citizens group may be a good alternative here, where we can get some folks put together, I can weld some cages up and catch them, put them in the truck, decide what we're gonna do with them after that, if they are not under the mad dog clause or whatever that you would like to say. And the other aspect is, I did speak to one of the head veterinarians at University of Florida. They said that they would entertain a on-site type of thing to bring in students down, supervise them. None of them would be allowed to come down themselves if they had a facility that they didn't have to rent, borrow, steal, or what have you, and if we could figure out a funding way to cover the cost. I have done something like that before. I used to do reproductive work on large animals in Missouri, and road transfer, things like that, where the veterinarians were absolutely embedded in the community. And then they had satellite places where their students could come down and work with other veterinarians a little more on the aspect in the troubled areas where there were. So I think his doctor name was Omen. I can't remember. I had it at home. But I think following up with that, where they come down once a month, and it was going to be very affordable. $250 to have your animals paid is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I think that number was shots and everything, so, let me respond to your comments there. With respect to UF, we have been in contact with them. They do have a mobile spay neuter trailer. We are working at our new facility to ensure that it is equipped with the proper outlets, to allow them to come in a landing zone that would allow them to come service us as frequently as they're willing to see us. So that is part of the new facility, projection conceptual plan. It's relatively little capital outlay as to what would be needed to set them up to utilize that facility. So that is in the works with the new facility. As often as UF will allow us that mobile vet trailer, we will have them in town. With respect to the animal officers responding, we do not put down animals on the spot. We do have a tranquilizer dart that our officers are trained to use if there is a threat to themselves or the public. We have never had an instance where the animal control officer had a dog that was too aggressive for them to capture. So we certainly are dealing with the spectrum of situations. We have had to tranquilize them at times if it was that aggressive, but typically our trained officers are able to wrangle them into the vehicle without harm to the animal or themselves. I caution you against activating citizens to try to catch animals. I'm going to let you and your lawyers discuss any liability for injuries to animals, people, or anything in between.
And that's why I bring it up. They never had to put a dog down before, but unfortunately for that area where I lived at, there wasn't such a thing as animal control in rural Missouri, and they had to do it themselves. You know, and we knew there was a chance, and they signed waivers and so on and so forth. It wasn't just a bunch of cowboys out getting it done. And we were trained and certified by the animal control deal. I mean, it took 2-3 months. It wasn't an easy process, and it was not for everybody.
Right.
You know, it was a special group of guys that were, and like I said, we never had to put anything down, and they did have the tranquilizer, things as well, being able to use that, but I only offer that as an alternative to folks who are willing to put themselves on the line, knowing the risks and the liability, and would waive such things, but, when all else fails, citizens need to take up and take care of the problem, can't just let it go.
Yes, Commissioner DeVito. Jenny?
One is from Ms. Brookwood, and she has to go short,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But then I also. have a
Julianne,
question
don't go
for-
far.
Don't go far, yes, ma'am.
Okay, Jenny, would you, please?
Hi, Ms. Brookwood, again, I've talked to you about animals many times, been to your lovely place. So just to be clear, when you spoke about the things that you could do and you can do, and you talked about education, but I just wanted to ask you, so you don't think that, having a county requirement to spay and neuter most animals, is a good thing to do?
I think it's an excellent thing to do, but who is going to reinforce it? That's the situation.
Well, I've spoken to this many times. It doesn't cost anything to have an ordinance. And to me, that right there is, an education in and of itself. Because some people are harder to convince, if they think that it's all up to them. I think that's persuasive. I mean, to me, if you spend the money to adopt an ordinance and it got 5% of the people to voluntarily go in there, to me, that would be worth
Absolutely.
the cost of adopting it. So you see, now, the other thing is, and some, have you thought about this? And I was gonna ask Ms. Young this question. In some counties, you have a license fee for your animal. Are you familiar with that at all?
And certain surrounding counties, yes, they do have a license type of thing, which is connected to the babies, but you need a database for that.
Right, got it. Okay, well, maybe that would be a question for Ms. Young. So, but anyway, you support the idea of spay and neuter in theory.
Yes,
Right, and
absolutely.
I understand not everyone can afford it. And then the part of spay and neuter, I talked about this for a long time with Ms. Fisher, who used to live here, is creating that affordability.
Absolutely.
Right, but
And it can be affordable.
sure,
Our spay and neuters copay is only $25, and that includes rabies.
got it. And then I look out here and I see a lot of people that spend their own money to spay and neuter. But anyway, I just wanted to ask you that, and I heard the bell ring, our church bell ring.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think we also have to keep in mind, anyway, is that most responsible animal owners, they spay and neuter their animals. They do it willingly if they can afford that. If not, reasonable, responsible ones will oftentimes seek help through SPAN, they'll seek help through Jenny. They'll seek help in ways to get them spayed and neutered. So, it's, what we're dealing with oftentimes is those that are not responsible. And they're the ones right now that are causing us the problems. So, anyway, you had a question of Julian?
Right, for the deputy administrator, Ms. Young. So has it been discussed at all at the county level to require registration and to impose a small fee?
It has been discussed for both registration as well as a mandatory spay neuter, at least the advisory board. The advisory board did not reach a consensus, not a favorable one. It was voted, it did not move forward to be recommended to the county commissioners. Under the same concept of mandatory spay neuter assumes that the government is going to dictate what you do with your animal. And the advisory board was not comfortable imposing their beliefs for a number of different scenarios and a number of different reasons that there should be a countywide mandatory spay neuter. Where so it has been heard recently by the Citizens Advisory Board, and it was denied to be recommended.
Just the spay neuter or having a fee?
The spay and neuter was the last one that we have discussed in the past licensure for animals, and it was the same premise, was that it was not recommended.
So, because isn't that how some counties fund their animal control operations? Through fees?
It could be how some counties fund their animal control operations. You'd have to tell me the county, I mean, for me to speak on how other counties funded it is probably not wise for me at this time.
Right, and then just frankly, we're a small county, we're growing, I guess, we're getting, seems to me, a lot more irresponsible people here, for people who don't know how to keep dogs, because frankly, although dogs may have run loose in the past, I don't remember so many dog attacks, and I don't remember a dog death. I mean, a death caused by a dog, and I looked this up with public health agencies, I can't be sure that I'm correct, but there's only about 50 dog-caused deaths of humans in the country every year, as far as I can tell. I would like to have more figures on this. It is very disturbing to me that one of the smallest, tiniest, least populous counties in Florida was the site of a dog death. And I wrote to some of my county commissioners about this. Before that woman died, I distinctly remember in the news, and the sheriff gave an award to one of the rescuers. Not only did we have a dog death, but we have had several people in the last few years, one from South County, sent to Gainesville by ambulance with life-threatening injuries from dangerous dogs. That seems to be a step above just a stray dog couple. So loose dogs are one thing and an inconvenience, but an escalation of people being injured by dogs. And I know that people in South County, if you look on social media and you talk to your friends, they are very tired of having their animals attacked by other animals. So, but it just, out of 50 animal-related deaths a year to occur in Putnam County, it's very disturbing. So there is a public safety aspect of it.
Julian, can I ask you another question?
Sure.
I know sometimes with older dogs, we're also having that issue as well. Older dogs, people can't afford to have them euthanized. It's, so they drop them. They have health issues. I mean, I'm dealing with 2 animals right now, and it's very, very expensive to, I mean, with these animals, I've got 2 sick ones right now.
Right.
And, so rather than deal with them, they're dropping them. Does the county have a mechanism where, rather than doing that they can surrender them to you and ask and approve of them being euthanized? Do you have anything like that?
We do not have a unique mechanism for some sort of end-of-life services. Again, that's in owner responsibility category for us. We do, if you were to call us and say, listen, here's the situation, the dog really needs to put down. We have worked with area vets who do have some lower cost euthanasia fees that make them very reasonable. And we are able to direct you to those, as well as rescues who are known for taking senior animals and or those with health conditions. So we can get you some resources to help you find something that fits the scenario you need, but we do not just take your animal to euthanize it on your behalf.
What about if they, and you don't do that if they're aggressive either, and they don't know how to deal with the aggressive dog either? So that-
Again, we go through the same scenario, unless there's a threat to public safety. It's a situation where at the end of this, it all comes down to, are you being responsible with your animal? And we've had every scenario under the sun call. And where we can help, we do, and where it's outside of the services that we provide, we try to link that individual with a person who will provide the services, whether that's behavioral training. We have a few people who do a few free sessions, a few assessments, We have rescues that will say, okay, Ms. Myers can no longer contain her animal, and I'm not picking on your animal. And so, but here's several different resources that will help you find an appropriate place for your animal if you're not able to remediate it. If it needs to be remediated. If you call us and sometimes those calls end up, well, okay, I just can't afford to feed my animal. Then we do what we can to link you with someone who can help you provide food for that animal as well. So we are servicing the citizens in a number of different ways, but there is a tangible line that is drawn between what we're supposed to be offering as animal control and just helping you care for your animal.
Okay. I was just wondering, because I know that has been, not that I'm looking at that for my animals, so they don't let them find that out. But, I think what we're hearing here, a common theme is first off, education. That there needs to be, that, we need to somehow or another get the message out. We have quite a few rescue groups in the county. And maybe and I don't know how we do this, but maybe that's something that, we can do through our website. Maybe you can do that through your website, just making sure that they all have those contact information readily available for people. And then education too about what is available, the proper steps to go through if you have an issue. A lot of people, I think we take it for granted because it's with anything, you get caught up in it, you know what's going on, you know how it's, but you forget that people that on the outside don't necessarily know what's really going on. And it's that unknown, I think sometimes it causes, a lot of the concern. And so I think that definitely is something, and maybe that's something that we can help with, assist in some way. I know we've got SPAN, we have ARC, I'm not sure what other ones, I know Jamie does a lot of the rescue here, in the county section. So that's something that we just need to, yeah, and Donna helps with that too, but just to make
We
sure.
have a huge rescue group of partners, and I would never try to name them all, because I would leave somebody out.
I know,
and
you
they're valuable
would,
to
you
us.
would. But just kind of, if they're willing to sign up for something like that, so that people know that they can be contacted to assist, maybe that's just, one, a start, maybe that's a start. And so, Commissioner, do you have anything else that you want to talk to the county about, any other concerns you have? Okay. Ms. Young, would you like to say anything? I know with your, okay.
No, because I don't think I should be talking about what happens at the advisory committee.
Okay. Okay, that's okay. So I'll go ahead, and if you have anything else, and then I'll let, if the public has heard anything, or if they want to weigh in on this, by all means, we can open it back up. Commissioner?
I'd like to make one comment and clarification. It sounds like definitely education, and not just education on how to take care of your dog, but how the procedure is to report something, okay? And then also, I think a coordination of all the different groups from SPAN to ARC to groups that are outside of our county that can assist people in getting some of the services that they need. But from talking to Commissioner DeVito and Ms. Young, and even a group of people, Administrator Suggs and I spoke to them 6-7 months ago, it sounded like spay and neuter was number one on the list. Now, I can stand there and tell you, I don't know that I would be in favor. I would have to get some more research and done, education on a ordinance. But it sounds to me a spay and neuter program, okay? Low cost is what everybody's saying. Okay, easy accessible, because usually when people cannot afford, they don't have transportation to go to Palatka and those things. So I think that is something that I believe needs to be worked on and probably go through. And I told Linda that, to take that to the Animal Control Advisory Committee, and they have discussed that. So that's the number one thing that I hear, and that probably, like Commissioner DeVito says, we're not going to adopt our way out of this, but maybe control the reproduction of animals would be the number one, I think, problem right now. So, Julian, how would the citizens here, and you're correct, I'm a firm believer, and Administrator Suggs has done this, And it's taken a while to do this, because we've hired good people, and they fit, and then they maybe move on for whatever reason, or they didn't fit. But bringing Julianne on and putting her over the department that she's over, she'll get it figured out. Nothing else, it'll be much more efficient, okay? But Julianne, how would the citizens here be able to lay their concerns, or maybe their ideas about a state neutral program to you or to the Animal Control Advisory Committee? And then how would the commission also do that? Would they email Animal Control, email you? I'm not trying to load you up, I guess I am just standing here loading you up.
Well,
But I think that we want the input, because that's why we have these committees. If not, then the commission would just come up with our own ideas, and that's not right. So we want people's input, okay?
They can absolutely, you guys can absolutely, everybody can email me for sure. There's public comment in every single animal services advisory meeting. So you're welcome to come and explain or express your ideas to that citizens group as well.
Now, it is public comment, it's not question and answer, and you're not going to be
Yeah,
interacting.
That's a
You
true statement, right?
get your 3 minutes, and that's just about it. If you forget something 30 minutes in the meeting, oh, wait a minute, well, you have to talk to them afterwards. But, so anyway, I think that's probably one of the number one things to work on, because I think that is probably attainable. But an ordinance, because I've heard this from a lot of people that I don't have hunting dogs, but they're not interested in doing that for their hunting animals or the farm animals, because they want to breed those animals down the road. So, but still, most of it comes back to personal responsibility.
I think one other thing is,
Commissioner Banks,
that's the, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Commissioner Banks.
How do we know when to have those meetings?
Well, we're changing the date. Well, I'm hopeful we're gonna change the date.
We're
Did I say that right, Ms.
We're
Brown?
trying.
Yes, we're gonna, but I will, once we get a set schedule for the next several, I'll reach out to the mayor, who can distribute to you all the next several meetings that are scheduled. City manager, I'm sorry, Mr.
That's
Rogers.
okay, no, that's okay, it would just be safer to send it
Yes,
to
ma'am.
him, because.
I apologize. Yes, we will get it to Mr. Rudd, and that way you'll have the schedule for the next several animal advisory services meetings.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yes, ma'am, I think one of the things we're talking about is education. There's avenues, and I've said this before, and a welcome packet when we come, or a new person comes into the town, or even close to the community for this avenue, let's say they're a mile out of town, city limits. So when they come to get the electric, the water, or what have you, to have thing, gee, you're moving into town, welcome, thank you very much. If you need spayed and neuter, there's vouchers at so-and-so place. Folks moving into this community have no idea of the works or where to go to, or so on and so forth. I've said before that we have a new welcome packet. Welcome into town, some of the communities or businesses give up, Mystic Bistro, give them $10 off for the new person, whatever. If we put a pack together with this information on it, they have to get electric, they have to get water, sign up for the, the garbage, what, so on and so forth. But I think the new package, it shows them, hey, look, your dog has to be rabies vaccinated. If you're living in town, a stray dog is this, and if, you want spayed and neutered, we hope you do, here's a voucher, here's where to go. I think being able to have the city involved with being able to do a welcome package would be something we don't even have and it doesn't cost.
That's the city initiative for you guys for sure.
And I
We can
think,
support.
and I think too, that like if University of Florida has the mobile unit, that if there's some way they can also come down here, we have the ability with electric too, that they could come down here, and help us as well, because there's a lot of people that don't have the means to get up there. They want to be responsible, but they just don't have the means to get there. And I know right here in town, we have one vet and he's very backed up. And so I think it's several months, isn't it, before he can do, a lot of times. And I know, Commissioner Burton, I believe you took animals to Jacksonville. I know y'all have taken them to Flagler Cats, over in Flagler, and there's, other places. So that definitely is something that's needed here in the county.
As we get that program into fruition, I'll reach out to your city manager and see if we can coordinate down there as well.
That would be very helpful.
Sure.
Do we have anything else? Any other questions, Commissioner DeVito?
Yes, going back to my original suggestion with the website, making it much more streamlined and easy for people to report problem animals. I hope that's something that you'll take a look at from the perspective of the individual who has a problem. But as well, it just occurred to me for education, whether we do it here in the city or whatever you're doing in the county, do you have your materials and information in Spanish?
That's a great question. One I'm gonna have to get back to you on.
Because I would tell you that I see a need, especially for the issue of education.
No, absolutely.
And maybe even,
If we don't, we can get it translated for sure.
right, because otherwise I think we're missing a lot of people who culturally are not on board with the same ideas of animal control. And I don't even know if our Laotian community farther south, I don't know what their pet ownership is. But if they do have pets or whatever, it would hurt. But I think there's a real need for educational materials in Spanish.
That's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. See, Commissioner Banks said
Do
right.
we have anything
There's a
for
right.
the county before we go on to talk more about our ordinance? Okay. Thank you all so much again for just having this open dialogue with us. We greatly appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
We really do. Okay, do we want to talk about this ordinance? Do we want to, where do we want to proceed? Yes, Commissioner Burton. You okay?
No, I have some other business that
Okay.
I need to take care of.
Okay. Okay,
Okay, sorry about that, but
that's okay. It happens. I've got one I'm waiting on right now too, that might, so you have to go through what you gotta do. And
I will be back.
Thank you. Thank you. And Karen, would you let her know if we dismiss, because we're coming back in at 6, so. Okay. Do we want to, everybody up for delving into this, or what do we want to do?
It's up to you all.
It's up to the commission what they want to do at this time. You want to talk about it? Look, we might as well talk about it a little bit. How about if I do this? If we do have a 6 o'clock meeting, if I put a time limit on this and we limit ourselves to,
I think it's only advertised.
oh, it's only advertised till 4? Okay, so till 4 o'clock, we're done. We're done at 4.
I would like to leave before 4.
Okay.
But I just had some questions that arose out of all these problems that we have with dogs running around and people not knowing what to do. And then the one family who came to the commission last week and complained about the barking dog. So I looked at our ordinance and I talked with our attorney, Bobby Pickens, or by email. I emailed him. I think that one thing we can do for the current time, as that applies to our ordinance, is to map out for the public what procedures you follow if there's a barking dog or if there's a nuisance dog. It took me a couple of hours to go through the ordinance and figure out who does what, and I referred it to Bobby Pickens and asked him some questions. So it just seems to me that that's something we could do for the public, is figure out what procedures. For example, if there's a barking dog, you're actually supposed to, I think, make an affidavit. Is that?
I think it's like kind of the same stuff that we ran into with the noise ordinance. I think when these ordinances were adopted by the city, I think they came from somewhere else. And they seem really good in theory, but when you have to actually put it to work, it doesn't work. Because it talks about, like Commissioner DeVito was talking about, there's some affidavit you're supposed to come in and fill out, and I don't think we have one of those. And an affidavit could be something as, in depth as like some type of official court document that you sign, or are they supposed to just write it out on a piece of paper and then sign it? And then who do they give it to? It's supposed to be sworn. I would think that a law enforcement officer, or a notary would be the only ones that could. So it just, and then there's a fine, but then you can pay the fine, you don't have to go to court, but we would have to get with the clerk's office to see if they're even gonna take the ticket. I don't even think we have a ticket book made up for it, so I think it's kind of, we're running into these same, type problems that we did with the noise ordinance. I know we amended that. Nobody's come back to the meeting and said there were problems, so I don't know if that's helped fix that. So it may be something that we could try to put some more, teeth on it as well, or at least get an ordinance that actually works in reality versus just looks good on our website.
Mayor, if I could respond to that. I mean, my thought is, we have little forms for all kinds of things that sit in the administration office. It wouldn't be that hard to make a little one-page form, for the noise, or I think there's also for dogs running loose. I don't think it would be hard to make a form. And as far as Karen, you're a notary, aren't you? Right,
Yes,
we've got notaries around here. So at least let people know what they can do. Y'all are making me laugh. Got the chocolate monster there. And then the other thing I just wanted to say about our ordinance, I spent a lot of time looking at it. And I think in terms of public safety, Crescent City actually has a very good animal control ordinance. It says, you're supposed to pick up your waste. You're supposed to keep your dog on a leash, not under voice control. You're supposed to keep your dog on a leash. And it even says the leash should be controlled by somebody who's capable of controlling that dog, which is really key. It means you can't give a 200-pound dog on a leash to a 7-year-old child or whatever. It's a good ordinance. And as well, our ordinance, basically if your dog is running loose, it's defined as a public nuisance. In theory, it can be picked up. I'm not saying animal control will always come and pick it up, but it can be picked up. And what I really like about our ordinance is, I'm not 100% sure I have this right, but I think that our ordinance is much less tolerant of repeat offenses of dogs going in other people's yards. And I mean, it may apply to cats too, but obviously they don't do as much damage. Dogs going into other people's yards, menacing people, putting people in fear, killing other people's cats. Ours is much more protected. So, Ms. Young said that the county will only enforce their provisions. I don't see anything wrong with us keeping our provisions. I mean, we can't make them enforce more, but it's possible that in the future, we could find other ways to enforce our ordinance. But I do know, I think we would be in a bad way if we loosened up our requirements. I don't think that's going really in the right direction. And it is not lost on me that when I walk and I meet people around town, they tell me they come from outside of town and even North Volusia because it's so nice to walk here. That tells you something.
Thank you. I know, Pam, you want Pam, I mean, as far as Pam, because Pam also from code enforcement, she works with this currently, don't you, Pam?
What do you want to do?
As far as like with a barking dog, will you come up, you want to come up here? You respond to codes? Codes.
Can Pam legitimately enforce our code that's written already?
I think it refers to animal control officer or law enforcement.
Can we amend that?
Yeah, we do, yes.
That's where I think we
Hey, let's
have,
give Pam some teeth and amend it, or we got something from somewhere.
and add her into that as if it's a code.
I'm not sure if Pam wants that though.
Sam's gonna be quiet.
So, Pam, do you wanna, I mean, like the barking dog, so that was also, that's a code enforcement issue that you went out and addressed, correct? Okay, So those type of things you would address. Now Pam, I don't think we want Pam out catching dogs.
No.
But from these some of these code violations, you do address these code violations currently. So we need to make sure that whatever our ordinance has, that it gives her that authority, the authority to be able to do that.
And Mayor, we could, in reference to an interlocal agreement, we can just, as part of that negotiation, say we're not gonna adopt the county ordinance. We have tweaked our ordinance. We could go through it, probably comb through it with those provisions you mentioned where we really can't do what it says. And then if we want to beef up a little bit where we define the code officer is able to handle things like just a nuisance barking dog or those types of issues. And then just stop that. That's what our proposal is as far as interlocal. And then the other things we've mentioned on here is perhaps helping on both ends of both enforcement and spay neuter. That would be a budgetary question, but that's our response to the animal control piece of the interlocal. This is what we're gonna do, and that's our position.
Go ahead, Commissioner Banks.
Back to Commissioner Peter, I went over this and we got some pretty good.
Yeah, ours was much stronger than
Yeah.
than the
Yeah,
county.
pretty good.
Well, do you think the, sheriff's department and stuff, let's say Pam is the first line in the chain of, okay, we have this unruly dog, we call sheriff department, they're not coming to probation, but when this Pam calls them, you know, look, this is code enforcement officer talking about these dogs, it may give more teeth and more validity to, the sheriff's call when it gets done, maybe put that in as the next step of, we call code officer, she's come out, there is unruly dogs, guess what, we need to call the sheriff's department, they need to do something. Rather than just a person going, oh, look, I got some running dogs out there, sheriff, come see. You can only cry wolf for a few times, it's what doesn't happen. But if she calls them and it's in the ordinance that she does, maybe it gives a little validity to the teeth of the sheriff having to come out and do something. We've already got a triage, if you will, of someone seeing it's a legitimate concern or not. And possibly she could then be mandated to call the sheriff's department where they have to do something.
Could provide a little more legitimacy.
Exactly.
And right now, if there's a civil infraction with this, the maximum penalty is $500. And Bobby, what you're saying, if the person receives a notice to appear, does not wish to contest this citation, a civil penalty of $100 may be made. But you're saying you don't know if the courts are gonna, I know because we talked with the sheriff's department before about having tickets, you know, and violations, whether or not the courts would acknowledge those or uphold those, you know, but I will say this, we put teeth in our sound ordinance.
Yeah, we found that it was better than the county, so we kept it and we just beefed it up a little bit.
Yeah, and it has definitely, I'm not getting those phone calls at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning that it's, you know, I know it still goes on, but it just took a few times for them to get that not only is the person having the party, but the property owner is gonna be fined also. So, it really did help, so if that's something, Bobby, if you wanna look at how, any way that we can possibly put some more teeth in it financially.
Miss Pam's got a code enforcement book, doesn't she? I mean,
Particular-
writing the code for the ordinance that does that, would that not suffice?
I don't have a ticket. I have one. I mean, driver citations.
Two times the citation and.
Well, I think it's like a citation, according to this code, you could write that code instead of noise abatement in it, could you?
Can I write a citation instead of a notice of code violation? I could if I had a citation book, yes.
I say we give them the same citation book.
You don't have to, for criminal,
Our code allows for that, correct? Citation writing?
yes, and then at the very least, you give somebody a $500 ticket now, or 250 to 500. That's a whole nother conversation if they decide not to pay it, what we do, but it seems to have been working. It's the same thing with, the noise violation. I mean, it's out there. Sometimes that deters people just seeing it as a possibility.
Hey, I think we're looking for deterrent as much as anything. I think, hey, that if it didn't happen to go through where they get caught one, $250 or $500 fine for some dog was found several times. Maybe that gets around town.
I will say, I would suggest, I feel like having your radio 2 hours is an intentional act. I think that there may need to be, it may need to be stepped more with the dog thing, because I mean, the dog could get out with no fault of the
Right.
person, so we don't want to find them the first time. But the repeat offender.
If it's a repeat
Just-
offender, you've got that, we have a German Shepherd that gets loose all the time. We have Christopher gets loose all the time. And it's just, but honestly, they do everything they can. I mean, I've witnessed that, and the dog somehow or another, he's an escape artist, And he gets out, he just shows up, I mean, he's friendly, but
That's different, a little common sense, when it gets out once or twice.
I think,
Somebody's trying to keep it, rather than the guy with the pit bull goes, they're not gonna put my dog on a leash. So, we're having a little common sense, a little difference. That goes to the judgment of the code enforcement officer, as it should.
Mayor, because we all have to be back here at 6 o'clock and everybody wants a break. I am all in favor of your great idea to follow the pattern of noise ordinance and see how we can make it more enforceable with more teeth. I think that's what you said. And leave that maybe to Bobby to come up with some reasonable ways to do that.
okay? And also possibly look at our ordinance and see where we need to put Pam, include Pam into it as well.
Right, whatever is feasible, whatever works out.
Is everyone in agreement with that before we go ahead and?
Sorry, Pam.
No, you're doing
I think everyone's in agreement. And I just want to say to all of you out there that have helped with this, thank you. I know it's, oftentimes, it's heart wrenching as well. And I know, what you've come across, and thank you for the work you're doing in the community and what you're trying to do to help with it. As we all, there's not that perfect solution. But at least we're all trying and we're going in the right direction. So thank you all very much. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the workshop.
See y'all at 6.